Everyone is capable, but not everyone will take the jump. And sometimes the jump is to figure out how to have the first conversation with somebody. It feels so, you're so embarrassed about it, like your face might be flushed red, but the worst thing that somebody can tell you is like, oh, I'm not interested. And like, you just kind of have to like get over that.
You're listening to Before You Buy or Sell a Business, hosted by Jared Johnson, the top SBA lender in the country. On this show, we break down business acquisitions, talk to industry pros, and provide real-world advice for buyers and sellers.
All right, well, welcome back to Before You Buy or Sell a Business. We actually have a special podcast episode this week. We're on location. I think it'll be a little challenging to hide what the business type was that you bought unless you're listening and not, watching it on YouTube. But go ahead and tell everybody who you are and give us a little background about you.
Jared, it's so great to have you here. Thanks so much for coming. I brought Lowe's Bridal several months ago, and my name is Jordan Hood. And so I'm guessing you want to know a little bit about me. Is that right?
Yeah, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Mississippi. I grew up on a farm. It's about an hour 10 from here. So in the Delta, which I think definitely builds character when you grow up in the middle of nowhere. I grew up on a farm, and then as a child, I was always drawn to the arts. I did dance, and my parents let me do like art lessons and things like that. And so I went to art school for college. So I have a bachelor's of fine arts in photography, and then I minored in art history, where I met my best friend. So then I went on to get my master's degree from Parsons, which is a school in New York. So that was fun. And I started working in marketing after that. And at that time, it was like at the beginning of the dawn of digital marketing as it is today. There weren't algorithms on Facebook, and Facebook was still Facebook and not Meta. And so, I started working and building websites for different clients, and I would manage their Facebook profile pages and then eventually Instagram. And then I left New York, and a friend of mine is a creative director at a really big big box store, and I helped her on some photo shoots when she had come to New York. I worked at one of the studios that she would shoot at, and so she was essentially like, if you ever wanted to move back home, let me know. I might have a job for you. So I called her one day. I was like ready to leave. You can't really get away from sound in New York City. It's just always there. And so one day I feel like I had like a little bit of a break, and I had to get out. So I left 12 days later. It was pretty great. I found a roommate to replace me in my apartment and all that stuff. It was quite the ordeal. I got on a plane and came back home. And a few months later, my friend, that job had opened up. So I moved. And when I moved in with my best friend from college. So I lived with her and her husband for a few months while I was like getting back on my feet. And I was doing like photography work and kind of like creative direction stuff, for this big box store. And, eventually I moved more into like a marketing role, and I left that job and I started working in marketing for a florist, one of the oldest companies in America. I think that business is like 187 years old now. So that was a super cool learning experience to like learn about such generational business, and floristry because it's such a unique industry. We could talk about the florist industry for like 2 hours. So I worked for them. I did their website, and I did all of their social media marketing, all their marketing, print, digital, television, commercials, billboards, everything. And then from there, I worked for another fashion business, like a small local fashion business. And I did everything for her as well. So digital marketing and print stuff, although she's really good at marketing as well. So she would do some stuff. And then I worked for a company that has artificial intelligence behavioral algorithms, which is less scary in this time, but like 7 to 8 years ago, it was a pretty scary thing. No one wanted to talk about it. But yeah, it's like behavioral algorithms that you use to place programmatic, like display media buys. And then from there, I left there and I wanted to work for somebody that had like a real impact in the world. So I applied to work at St. Jude and I got the job, which was like my absolute dream job. Like, loved working for St. Jude. I worked for ALSAC, which is the nonprofit fundraising side of St. Jude. And I got to raise money for the kids at St. Jude for 5 years. And I worked up in that role. I started as a, what was my role? I think it was called digital media strategist, and I was over all of prospecting. So people who hadn't given to St. Jude previously, which is really hard. Like, everyone who can give in the United States has given to St. Jude. So that was a super amazing learning experience. And wow, business efficiency that I learned. When you work for a nonprofit, they have to report how much of the profits go towards like expenditures and salary and like running of the business versus the amount of money in which it gets put back into the organization. So at St. Jude, I think it's every dollar that somebody gives, only 32 cents of it goes to running the show, and the rest of it goes to the kids to save lives. And so, yeah, I thought I was good at business efficiency before that, and man, did I not know. But yeah, so that was a super fun learning experience. So I moved up there. I went from digital media strategist, then I moved up to be a senior advisor over digital product development stuff. So I did all of their digital pieces and parts that go to fundraising. At the time, I was on the team that tested and optimized them. So really thinking about user journey from beginning to end, not just in your digital space, but what billboard do they see, or what information, what calls to action are we giving them in order for them to get to this digital space, and how do they move through it? And then where are we making sure that we're communicating and resonating with our potential donors? How many times do we need to do that in order to get them to give? And then also building that trust and camaraderie with your donors of like every single cent matters when you give to St. Jude. So if you're only able to give $5, like we're just as thankful as if you were able to give a bigger gift. So as you can tell, I really loved working there. And then in the background, my best friend that I met in college, she her godparents owned this business that we're seated in. So I always knew of them. Like I said, when I lived with her, when I left New York, I went to a few Thanksgivings and Christmases and birthdays and stuff. And so I met the previous owners then. And some point when we were in college, she came home from working on Saturdays because she'd always have to work on Saturdays. And we were in college. We were supposed to have fun. We were supposed to go and do things. We weren't very wild. Like we didn't drink or anything. It was usually I wanted her to go to a movie with me, and she couldn't go because she had to work. And she came home one day and she was like, I don't know what they're going to do when they're ready to retire. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, they don't have any kids. She was like, I'm not going to buy the place. I'd love to work there, but I'm not going to buy it. And I was like, well, I'll buy it. And we were like 19.
Yeah.
20. And I was like so naive in saying that. like in my wildest dreams, I'll buy it is what I was like thinking, on the inside. Because this place is so magical, and it's definitely regionally famous. And in the bridal industry, it's pretty famous nationwide. I was like, I'd love to buy that place is what I was thinking. Well, yeah, 15-ish years later, here we are, and I bought it thanks to you.
And a lot of your experience definitely sort of prepared you for it, and you probably didn't realize that. And obviously, you didn't decide at 19, I need to learn all of these things that I'm going to use when I actually buy this business that I sort of jokingly said I would do.
Yeah, my parents would always joke with me, like, you're going to art school to learn how to color How are you ever going to learn? Like, how are you ever going to use that? Are you ever going to have a real job with like
Well, your
health
parents own a
insurance?
farm, right? So it's
That's
like,
right. Yeah. My dad owns a farm. My mom had a small business. So she did jellies and spices and pickles and stuff.
So when you come along and say, I want to do art and
Yeah.
photography, they're like, okay. Yeah.
They're like,
So
"What's
it
with
ended
you?"
up working out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everything you did sort of prepared you for the bridal industry if you kind of connect the dots.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I was brought in, I think Nolan had called me and said, hey, I have a deal I don't think you've done before. I said, oh, good, because I like those. Definitely don't shy away from doing another HVAC company, but it's kind of more interesting when you do 70, 80 deals a year to do something you haven't done before. And so when he came along and said, hey, I've got one for you, it's going to take some work. I know if you can figure it out, you will. And I said, okay. And so we started looking at it and I'm like, okay, this is definitely one I haven't done. This would be kind of fun. I'm like, Googling, where in Arkansas are you and how far are you from me and kind of trying to understand. And then I pulled up the building and was like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Like, I think you and I talked, I sort of looked at your background and said, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can figure this out. So, we got connected and kind of started moving along.
I don't know if you know this, but I had talked to like a few people before you and I'd kind of given up. Like Nolan is friends with the sellers, which of course, like the people who owned this place before me are true, like amazing gems of like the sweetest, kindest, truest, like magical people. Like I just don't know how else to describe it. Anyone you talk to them who's ever met them feels the exact same way. They're just such genuine, beautiful people. And then they have all these rich stories that they would tell. They do tell. And so anyway, I was talking to them and they were like, well, our broker Nolan is our good friend. And I was like, of course, the person that you're helping, is helping you sell your business is an actual good friend. So anyway, I'd kind of built this relationship with Nolan and he knew all about me and all this stuff. And he gave me, a few people to reach out to. And so I did. And it was just like not going to happen because like I'm a very normal person. Like I paid for myself to go to college, paid for myself to go to New York and go to grad school, worked my butt off. I have like 5 or 6 jobs at any one time in grad school to pay the bills, which was like, my subway pass, my rent, and like grilled cheese. Like you live on the bare minimum and your hustle is high when you're living in New York. I just like was just a normal person and I, came home and I had like very normal jobs where I make normal money. And a few years, like when I started working at St. Jude, I was really able to save for the first time in my life. And I bought a house by myself. And that was like this really big thing. I was so proud that I was able to accomplish that. And it was like at the very beginning of COVID and I just like hit the market right at that sweet spot before everything blew up. And then like it was because I bought that house that I was able to, it was one of the things on the list that we were able to use to make this deal work. And so it's just really cool how all those things fell into place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but at the end of the day, you also have to kind of look at you worked hard, right? You kind of like skimmed over that. But at the end of the day, like all business is hard, right? And finding a business, buying a business, operating the business, it's all very difficult. And if you're able to sit there and survive on grilled cheese and try to make it work, right? You took several jobs, you hustled, right? And I feel like that, again, was preparing you to be able to buy a business. I think just from doing this for a long time, I can sort of see those things a lot of times when I'm talking to people. And so if I sit there and I'm like, okay, this isn't a, very typical deal, but let's see if we can figure it out. And the more I talked to you, the more I got to know you, the more I understood your background. I'm like, okay, I have to figure this out. Like, we will figure this out. And I think, it just made sense at the end of the day for you. So I was glad that we were able to kind of work through it and figure it out. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the transaction. Obviously yours deal being a little bit different than other people's. People are always listening and trying to find a way to kind of pull some information out so that they can use it when they're looking for a business. So the way you found the business was very different than a lot of people. There's people that will look for a year, 2, 3 years before they find a business that fits them and makes sense.
Yeah. So I will say that even though like my best friend, her parents are best friends with the previous owners. So that was a thing that existed. But like I was very separate from them. Like they were essentially strangers to me. So some advice that I would give people is like the world is very small right now. Like we have social media that ties everybody together. You can figure out somebody's social media handle and figure out how to communicate with them very easily. There are so many amazing magical businesses in this world that like are looking for the next generation to pick them up and carry them on. Like right now, I know that there's like 10 wedding dress stores that are for sale, and like the wedding dress business is great. Like come on in. And it's fun. But it's like one thing that you just sort of have to like not be scared to ask. And so like, you know, when my friendship obviously was important to me, but I did like ask her parents, like if they're ever wanting to sell, like I'm genuinely interested. Did I know how I was going to make that happen? No. Did I actually think that it was going to happen? Absolutely not. There's like that meme going around right now that's like, I know I'll be successful because I'm absolutely delusional. Like that's 100% accurate. Like it's like everyone is capable, but not everyone will take the jump. And like sometimes the jump is to figure out how to have the first conversation with somebody. It feels so, you're so embarrassed about it. Like your face might be flushed red, but the worst thing that somebody can tell you is like, oh, I'm not interested. And like, you know, you just kind of have to like get over that.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, what's the worst happens? They say no.
Right.
Move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. You know, I know when we kind of started looking at it, you were definitely nervous. You would call me and tell me, like, Jared, this isn't gonna work. Like, it's not gonna. And I'm like, no, let me handle this. Like, we got it. Like, we'll work together. We'll figure it out. It was nice having sellers that I felt like they really believed in you.
Yeah.
That you were the right person to buy it. I feel like that's a challenge that a lot of buyers have. They don't get the opportunity to talk to a seller, or they don't take the time to talk to a seller and really kind of get them comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Can they envision that person buying their business, taking it from that point on?
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little bit earlier about the amount of staff that you have that are full-time and that are part-time, that come in and work all the time. I'm sure that was probably the biggest thing that the seller was worried about, right? Not only are you getting to take over this beautiful building and this amazing business that is literally one of the biggest things in a person's life, right, is getting married. So it's a big responsibility. So they need to find the right person to do that. So maybe talk a little bit about how you got them comfortable.
I did that. Yeah. So I think one of the things from working at Alsac St. Jude that I really resonated with me is like genuine connection between people. And when you have a small business, so before I bought this business, it existed for 48 years. So, I mean, there's like 1,010 relationships that they built across 48 years that were so important to the success of this business. So, I wanted to make sure that I met with them and I communicated like genuine connection and taking care of relationships that you built that were work for you to build were genuinely important to me, and that like I was going to do my best to maintain that and take care of all the work that they did and continue it. And one of those things is like, you know, there's ladies that have worked here for 20 years in this building right now. There's 2 people who've worked here since they were 14 and 15 years old, and they're like late 40s.
Wow.
So that's really important that you like make a genuine connection with your seller. I think like I know that doesn't happen 100% of the time, and there's tons of deals that happen like behind closed doors and no one ever talks. But for me, and like buying a small business that was a family business. Like I needed to make a connection with the family and then continue what they had built. So, sometime after I talked to you, I came here and I had dinner with them, and I kind of just like had a one-on-one conversation with them about like the type of person I am and kind of my vision a little bit for this place. That's really dangerous to get into because you don't want to share too much of your vision and hurt their feelings. It's kind of like when you buy a house, right? You're not going to like tell the old owners like, I'm going to knock that wall out and we're going to put like a gigantic TV and over that fireplace, right? And they're just going to like cry on the inside. But you just kind of want to like make sure that they understand that you're going to continue with the legacy that they built. That was really important to me. And then I did something that was probably like a massive no-no. I came and worked here.
No, I mean, I actually recommend that. I mean, kind of seeing, can you really understand what they do, right? And it gives you a really good perspective on what is the seller actually doing in the business. Because there's a lot of times where you look at it and you think, oh, they don't really, spend a lot of time in the business. And we all hear, especially from business brokers, oh, they spend 4 hours a week there and they play golf all the time. And then they get in and the buyers are calling me going, Jared, it was like 40 hours a week minimum. And now I have to hire somebody and I have to figure it all out and everything. So at least you got
that
an
was
idea.
a big thing for me. Yeah. So there's 2 owners and there's one of me.
Right.
So that was like probably one of my number one concerns was that I wasn't going to mentally be able to handle replacing 2 people. So yeah, that was a big thing. And that was like one of the first like action series that I took when I got here is like they didn't have any management help. They just did it all themselves because they're literal magicians. Like I don't understand how they did that. So I have managers now. And that was like pretty quick. When I came in, I knew I was going to need help. So yeah, I've got some really great women that work here I have a store manager and I have an assistant. I have other support staff and my office has a manager now. So I can delegate better and I'm not getting mentally overwhelmed by every single action that has to be taken because like this isn't a small, big business. This is 22,000 square feet, 3,000 wedding dresses, and we take 50 to 60 brides on a busy Saturday. I just got done with working a 16 Saturday stretch where it was 50 brides every Saturday. So it's not like a light feat to take on at all.
Yeah.
It definitely like you got to do some like inner work before you take on a big challenge like this because you have to be able to step aside from the chaos that's happening right in front of you and say, how do I solve this so that it's not chaos anymore? And then figure out how to do it,
Yeah. Wow. That's all 16 in a row. Oh my God. Yeah. And the sports parents think they have it hard.
Just come work at Lowe's Bridal for a few weeks.
Yeah, there you go. That's crazy. So, obviously, we could probably talk a long time about how the transaction went. I know they worked with us. You guys kind of worked together. Thinking back to the actual process of it, if you were to do it again, is there maybe one major thing that you would have done different or maybe would have spent a little bit more time working on?
It's a great question. This is such a unique deal that it was like, I feel like there's so many different steps in the process and each one is waiting on the next thing to drop before it can fall, essentially. If there's anything I would have done differently, there are a few things I would have done differently, but I think just like having a little bit more patience and telling myself I don't need to be stressed out the whole time is one of the things that I would have done differently, which sounds really silly. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just kind of have to wait for it to happen. One of the things with this purchase is that the owners of this business, it was their life. They were here their entire lives. This was all that they knew. And all of the employees, this place is their life, and the previous owners were directly tied to their life. So one thing I did when I came in is that I kind of let everyone have a lot of time to process that I am not them and they are not here anymore. So that's certainly something I would keep the same, but I would have like going in on the front end of it, I probably would have a few different conversations and ask for the previous owners to communicate the change a little differently. It's one thing I think I would have asked for. And I think that might have been it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is pretty interesting. You get a lot of people that that's what they're most nervous about when they're selling. They say, this is essentially my family, and I'm scared to just hand them off to someone else. And we're actually seeing a lot of businesses that will take less money than what they could sell for. When you get into the larger transaction size, they don't want to sell to private equity, or they don't want to sell to a group that's going to come in that already has 4 or 5 of those, and they're going to wipe out half the staff and change everything right away. We're seeing a lot of them that are saying, no, I want to pass it on to somebody else that I know is going to come in and work hard. They may change a couple things, but nothing too crazy. They're not going to come in day one and let go of half the staff. So
I definitely think that the sellers felt that way about their deal. Like, I know that they had other options, but they weren't happy with them because of what changes would have happened to the business. So yeah, I mean, that was one of the things when I talked to them, I kind of knew that that was my strong suit, that I was going to come in and essentially operate this place a lot like they did. That I was a real person, that cares.
Yeah. Yeah, you had mentioned not being as nervous. I would say that's pretty normal, right? I mean, you're making a huge bet on yourself. I mean, you had to sell a house.
I did.
We had a building that was historically registered. I remember at one point doing the environmental due diligence. There was a building like a couple hundred yards away that at one point was a auto repair business. I remember talking to you on the phone and you saying, what do I do? I have to either order it at a certain period and it had to be done earlier. You could spend more money, but then you won't get that money back.
I'm so glad that we did it, because that was a great thing that I did. If people have the option to do both of the tests, order the full big test. I forget what they're called now.
Phase 1.
Phase 1. Order it early and get it in, because it was like weeks late. And then we needed it, didn't we?
Right.
Because my appraisal came in above the amount that
it was a certain dollar amount
threshold. And then we would have been screwed had I not done it.
And I just remember having a conversation, because I think I want to say it was a Saturday.
And it was a Saturday, because I had to order it like that day.
Yeah, and I remember driving and my kids were in the car, so then I got to explain to them what an environmental report was after that, which I love doing. But it was interesting, and they said, well, I think she picked the right one. Like,
That's nice.
So it ended up working out.
But I got their approval.
Yeah, it was a fun little roller coaster for a little while there. So
because there's so many things that have to go in with these loans that you don't really get to control, and so just being as most prepared as you possibly can. And then taking a lot of deep breaths, I think, is like the most advice I can give to someone, and to not be scared to do it, because I'm just a normal person who ended up being able to buy this extremely magical place. And like, you can do it. I think that's another thing is like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people tell themselves that they would never be able to do something like this. And like, that's just not true. Like, regular, normal people who have like regular savings accounts can do things like this. It is possible.
Yeah. There's definitely people out there that deserve to do that, and they just need a little nudge the right way. So then of course there's also people that make great employees that you want to hire as well, and can run it as if it's their business and everything. It's interesting. So you were able to take over. Covered a little bit about having to kind of make that transition. Once you kind of got that settled, it sounds like you were sort of just thrown right into busy season. How did that go?
Yeah, so I had a 30-day transition period with the sellers, which I highly recommend that you advocate for as much time as they will give you to transition. It's certainly like a balancing act, because while you're doing the transition, you don't want to change anything, if at all possible. The whole point of a transition period is to be a sponge and learn exactly what they did and how they did it, and then just observe the the conflict areas where you're like, that takes way too long, or that could be organized differently, or like, why in the heck are you doing it that way? You just take a note, right? That's just filed back in the back of your head, and you're learning every single thing that they do and how they do it. And like mine was 30 days. I would have loved 60, but it is what it is. We got there. They went with me to markets, which is a massive part of owning a store like this or any store that has retail. Like, you've got to learn your vendors, like who are your points of contact, your representatives, the different things that your different vendors offer that they're like really good at. So like in the wedding dress industry, which designer houses are really good at all over beaded gowns versus which ones are really great at ball gowns, which ones are really great at tight fit, no seams. Like no one wants to see their belly button in a dress. So like, who makes those dresses? So I kind of had like 2 market trips with them where I had to learn all of that in like 7 days.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like when we were talking earlier, I was like, this is remarkable. I said, did you know this before? No. Like, oh my God.
I'm very thankful that I went to design school and like that I have an art background, so I can really pay attention to those fine details of construction and how things are fabricated in like different fabrics. And I just have a brain to learn that kind of thing. If you didn't, there's like different consultants that you could hire that really help teach that kind of thing. So there are resources. But yeah, I had 30 days. I got thrown into it. And just little things like you need keys to the building. You need copies of the keys to the building. This building is from 1914. So there's like 27 locks in this place. And there's 7 circuit breakers where I flip the lights on and off every day. It still to this day takes me 22 minutes to turn all the lights on, turn the air up, and unlock the doors. 22 minutes.
Definitely can't make it a smart
And so like
book.
it was a whole day of me learning which keys go to which door. You don't think of like these like little bits of having a business that like, what do you do when it snows? Who do you call to ice your parking lot? How do you plow snow? I didn't know, but now I do. You know, like how does the pressure washer work? There's just like all these little things that you don't know, but then you teach yourself. Yeah, all the different light bulbs and all the dang lights in this building. So there's lots of little things like that, but then there's like transfer of accounts. So that was probably one of the largest stressors of getting the business set up under my name was like there's 8 designers in this building. I carry all the lines from those 8 designers. So Lowe's has a vendor account with 8 designers. And then I have veils. There's like 7 veil companies, accessory companies that we carry. I have candles. But then there's also like the P.O. box and the florist account and the water people and all these different services and suppliers that support a retail business. Getting those transferred over is a lot. You have to set up new accounts with all of them. They require all this paperwork. The paperwork doesn't come in on time. Like your federal tax ID number and your other like retail registrant number. I think mine came in like 4 weeks after I owned the business. So like we weren't able to make the transition happen because I didn't have the paperwork to make the accounts. That was probably the most stressful part, that right there, which is where your working capital comes into play.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. We hear that all the time. Had a lot of clients that are having to transfer that on the business that my wife and I bought. The same problem. We're dealing with big sporting good manufacturers, and I literally would have to get on Zoom with them and say, "Hey, I know what I'm doing. Like, we'll be okay. Like, I understand all of this. This is what I do for a living," and trying to get, and then it's still 30, 45, 60 days, and they're finally like, "Hey, you're approved now."
Yeah.
Like, okay, well,
yeah.
all right, we'll move forward now, get some terms and get all of that going. So
right.
yeah, it is a challenge. And I get a lot of people that when I'm talking about working capital, they're like, that just seems like a high number, and I kind of laugh and go,
right.
I promise you it won't be. Like, you're going to need this. That's one of the hardest things to manage when you're transferring everything, is making sure you have enough cash.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
yeah, I'm really glad that you advocated for me to have working capital. Because that 30-day time span, I needed it to like hold the gap. Because all the paperwork didn't line up for all the accounts to be able to be made. So yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, we worked through it. I feel like I've overcome a lot of challenges in 8 months.
Yeah, you've learned a lot very quickly. And obviously you're doing very well. If you had 16 weeks in a row of,
Almost fully
50,
booked.
60 people here, that's just so crazy to think about. So what's next?
What's next? Learning how to take care of this building. Is on the docket. A lot of the things that I have changed, which they tell you not to change anything in a business for a whole year. I don't know if you told me that, but
No, some people will say 6 months, some will say a year. My opinion is, if it's something major, then change it immediately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sit on it maybe for a little while before you do it.
So, because I have like a marketing background and also like a user design journey background of understanding somebody's like initial experiences to prompt you to then go through a journey with a company, and like what does it look like to come out the other side? So like, are you a lead generation? Are you purchasing something? Are you just coming to browse? Like what are the outcomes? So one of the things that I noticed pretty much at the start was that this generation of customers is very different than previous generations of like the systems that were built to support the flow of a customer when they interact with us and when they come in the store. So that was like one of the first things that I changed. So like, for instance, when we had a customer come in and they would check in at the front desk and then they would get assigned a bride, that would take 13 minutes. The entire appointment is an hour and a half. So you just spent 13 minutes not making any actionable progress to get to the goal of the customer first.
And the customer's already coming in nervous.
Right, yeah. And she's been in the car for a while with her mom, and they're probably stressed out. And we have a lot of brides that actually drive themselves, so they don't have to be in the car with anybody, which I think is hilarious. So yeah, that was like a thing. And they're used to like being able to go on Amazon and click a button and they get what they want then. And that's not happening anywhere in the journey here. So that was like a thing that I recognized, that we really had to pay close attention to my customer's journey with us. And I've made a lot of changes there. So now the check-in process takes 3 seconds. So massive change there.
Yeah.
We regained some time. We love it. And then like also how we build through the appointment and how we take care of people. My goal when people come into this building is that they have a fun time and they really enjoyed their day with us. Like that's the goal. Obviously, we love selling wedding dresses. Like that's needed. But the goal from like my stylist perspective is to make sure that people feel taken care of. Because at the end of the day, oftentimes, like 90% of the time, you close a sale based off of the experience that you're able to give somebody and a genuine connection that you're able to make. And so that is number one. So we shifted from like, you have to sell a dress today right now to let's talk about it. Let's talk about your vision. Does this dress meet that? Making sure that your whole party's taken care of. We have conversations with the party and we laugh and we, make sure that they're feeling special too. And so, yeah, I mean, like there's, in sales, I don't think this is a surprise to anybody, but there's scripts. So I made whole new scripts, and there was a big chunk of that script that was awful. And I had a sales rep come and she was like, "What are you doing? And why are you doing that?" And I was like, "Well, because XYZ happens." So on really busy Saturdays, as I said, we'll have, anywhere from like 40 to 50 brides. Sometimes there was a day that we had like 58. It was way too many. Each one of those brides comes with 4 guests. If you had 40 people roaming the store all at once and you're trying to make a sale with this girl that's in a dress and her whole party is getting up and walking around, it's really hard for the bride to make a decision because her party isn't there to validate her experience or build confidence in her. So then the girl's just trying on dresses by herself in the dressing room, and then the whole viewing party is just walking around. So we were asking people to stay seated, and then they get mad because they're like, I can't walk around. And we're like, oh, no, that's not the point. You can walk around. You can walk around, but the point of you being here is to see your loved one in a dress, right? And yeah, we really made a lot of people mad for like 3 weeks, telling them to stay seated. And then I had a sales rep come and she was like, you can't tell them that. You can't tell them to stay seated. This isn't like a roller coaster ride. She was like, you can't give them rolls. And I was like, well, I can't have 40 people walking around my store either, not enjoying their, the reason they're here. And she was like, you just need to rephrase it. Like, you're here to take care of them. This is how this runs, and you're here to take care of them if they need something, to ask for your help. And so it's just been a fun learning experience being in this business of like seeing a problem, trying to solve it. Oh, that is not the way you solve it, right? And then moving on to the next iteration of things. And I feel like I'm really making progress there of trying to balance things that need to be changed to take care of today's customer, but also not losing the magic that this place is with a lot of the traditional processes that the previous owners put in place.
Yeah, listening to your customer is one of the hardest things, because you may feel like you've got it right, but if they continue to tell you something, then you've got to listen and
Right.
make changes. Yeah, so I really appreciate you having us here and being able to come see. I remember telling you, I'm going to come there, I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
And I tried to give you a little bit of a break to operate it. But I'm really glad I got to come out here. So I always ask 2 questions at the end. So first one, do you have a mentor, or did you ever have a mentor?
Yes. I've had mentors my whole professional life, actually. Highly recommend that people find others to learn from always. Yes, I have a business coach right now who's related to my industry, and she's local to this region. But there's a lot of other resources for wedding dress and bridal store owners that aren't like one-on-one business coaching. But yeah, I have a mentor.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Sure, it's helpful. All right, final question. What motivates you?
So he asked me a question earlier of, when people say yes to the dress, does it resonate with me? Or does it get old? And the answer to that question is that no, it never gets old. Because memories often last your whole lifetime, or as long as a memory can last, right? And it's extremely special, the thing that we get to do here, because oftentimes it's generational. A bride will come in with her mother and her grandmother and her great-grandmother sometimes, and her sister. And so it's this extremely intimate family moment that we're getting to have that's very unique, where it's all about this one person and everyone's love for that one person, and to make this little dream that they have come true for their wedding day. And at the end of the day, that is the thing that I love most, and what a lot of people here love most, is that we get to create these very lasting memories for so many families. And part of that is that I try really hard to find really great quality gowns at really great prices. And then I also have couture ones that are real fancy, but finding the things that I know that my girls will love and feel beautiful in, and then making those memories with their families is truly special. And yeah, that's what motivates me.
Yeah, it's a great motivation. Anytime that you can find a true love for what you do for your business, helps you get through those 16 weekends in a row with a lot of people. It makes
Thankfully, it gets to happen several times a day. And so we're like, and it's so fun, because sometimes families are so sweet and they are like so celebratory. Actually, like this morning, we had a bride in here. Her whole family was like literally cheering for her the entire appointment. And they're the only bride in here. She was the only bride in here because we're in our slow season. And she was like, I'm sorry I'm being so loud. And I was like, girl, be as loud as you want. You're the only person in here.
Yeah.
When are you going to get to do this again in your life? And she's like, you're right. Never again. And so it's just really fun to be able to feed into that and let them have their moment.
Definitely. Yeah. That's awesome. So plus, one other thing I remembered, you could tell your parents that you got to use your art degree.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think you turned out fine.
Yeah. I don't color anymore, but yeah.
You just stay white.
That's right.
Cool. Well, thanks again for letting us come here and talk. And everybody that's listening, I'm sure will really appreciate the advice that you've given. And hopefully, if anybody's looking for a dress, they'll look you up and find you. What's the best way to find you?
You can go to lowsbridal.com or see us on Instagram, Lowe's Bridal, LOWSBRIDAL.
All right, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to Before You Buy or Sell a Business. If you found value in this episode, please follow the show, leave a positive review, and share it with someone. For more information, check out jaredwjohnson.com. We'll see you all next time.